Thank you, Presiding Officer. And some invitations are more welcome than others. This is one of them. I have not been part of the consideration of this bill up till now. I am a data user of censuses, but also a user of censuses. In other words, my interest in genealogy means that I will lift and read a census every single week, but they're all 100 years old. That's of limited but some interest to today's debate. SPICE tell us that the information on equality groups in the census can be used to monitor discrimination and plan public services. And that's, of course, correct. But the thing we've got to bear in mind in all this debate, that it is a statistical survey and it isn't about identifying responses and needs of individuals, but of communities, often quite small communities, to make sure that the public services are provided appropriately. The SPICE also say the information collected must be authoritative, accurate and comparable for all parts of Scotland. Now, there is a difficulty in that description of what we're trying to do. Authoritative, certainly. Accurate, perhaps. And comparable, almost certainly. The comparable, retaining the male-female for birth identity, helps the comparability. But we've got to remember that at birth, it is the parent who registers the birth and registers what the gender of the infant is. And I have an example that's actually from exactly 150 years ago, where a child called Keith, I won't use the second name, there'll be living descendants, Keith was registered, as you would expect, as a male. But 3 years later in the census, and every subsequent census, was shown as female. And in 1905, Keith married a man and gave birth to children. So therefore, an error, probably an error, was made at the point in 1869 when Keith was born. So, because there is no medical requirement to provide information about gender to someone who's registering. You die, you need medical information on your death certificate. So therefore, there are some difficulties about authoritative. It is possible, as the example I've just given shows, to have something on your birth certificate and put something else on your census. That's always been there. But of course, who fills out the census? And in broad terms, it is the head of the household. Now, I welcome the indication that there will be a way for individuals to fill out information that they may not wish to share at that point with the head of the household. But equally, it's a voluntary question, so we won't get the answers from everybody for whom there might be a particular answer, and we won't necessarily get the answer for people who don't choose to use the separate system that allows them individually to respond. Now, that opens up the much broader question, for which I have no answer directly, of how we therefore can rely statistically on a self-selected group using a self-selected description. I think it's possible to deal with that, but I hope that the National Records of Scotland might, by sampling perhaps, find out how the answers we've got do represent the underlying reality, because the statistics that come from our census are important in planning services. Now, voluntary questions are not new. They were introduced in the 1891 census, when the first time there was a question as to whether you spoke Gaelic. You didn't have to answer the question. So there's nothing new about a voluntary question. We can do that in this instance as we did then. Now, I'm going to trust my colleagues as we take this bill forward. I won't be playing any part on it. But I think the clear distinction between physical sex and how people wish to be treated, recognised and treated, is an important one. Because I think it really is a human right in our society that people are able to choose how they are to be treated. That goes to the heart of this particular debate. And I very much welcome this tiny little legal provision, because it's really only a couple of lines in a very small bill, actually leverages very big consequences for quite a lot of people in our society. And I think it is right and proper that we take this forward in the way that we're planning to, and continue to engage to make sure that the kind of questions we ask give us answers which statistically help us respond to a wide range of diverse needs that in the past we really didn't recognise and certainly didn't talk about. Presiding Officer.